The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Ladakh reviewing the security situation there amid an escalating standoff with China. The Prime Minister reached Ladakh at around 8:30 this morning and visited forward locations in Nimu. The Prime Minister is currently interacting with the Air Force and the Indo-Tibetan Border Police personnel. He was earlier briefed on the situation along the line of actual control by the 14 Corps commander, and the Prime Minister was accompanied by Army Chief General Naravane and the Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat. Our sources indicate that the Prime Minister will meet with some of the soldiers who were injured in the violent face-off at the Galwan Valley. The Nimu forward base is located at a height of 11,000 feet and is surrounded by the Zanskar mountain ranges. It is considered to be one of the toughest terrains where Indian troops are deployed. This was the Indian Prime Minister's second visit outside of New Delhi since the COVID-19 outbreak took hold in the country. The Indian Prime Minister has made multiple visits to army bases in his 6 years as Prime Minister. Such visits boost the morale of the troops who often serve in remote and tough terrains. Some of these visits which come to mind are Siachen in the year 2014, when the Prime Minister spent Diwali with the troops. Then there was a visit to Rajouri in Jammu and Kashmir last year, once again on the occasion of Diwali. Now, our political affairs editor Karthikeya Sharma is joining us with more insights into this development. Karthikeya, a very good afternoon to you. So tell us, this seems to be quite a surprise visit from the Indian Prime Minister. Is the Indian government trying to send out a strong message of intent to China through this visit?
I think there are I think multiple messages here. There is a message of solidarity. There is a message of a person who is hands-on as Prime Minister when it comes to military affairs. There is also a message that Prime Minister is seized of the movement situation and he has gone to Ladakh. Now, Nimu is a big military base in Ladakh. It's not a small military base. From Nimu, a lot of activities are coordinated both in the northern sector and in the eastern sector. But for Prime Minister to surprise everyone by landing in Ladakh like that also goes on to tell us that perhaps the military or the administration did not want to take any chance, one. And secondly, by releasing number of photographs, an intent has been conveyed, though it is not the first time. We have seen that the Prime Minister in past had spent time with the soldiers on occasions of Diwali. He had spent time with soldiers even on different occasions. But it is part and parcel of the larger BJP tradition. If you would remember in 2003, LK Advani went to the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. A lot of people were worried that he had actually gone to an outpost. And I distinctly remember, because I covered it, that we could actually see the wiring, which was 100 meters away from that post. So it's part of the tradition of the NDA government. But I think Prime Minister takes it to a different level in the sense, it's like a different imagery, like American president without informing anyone suddenly lands in Afghanistan. But that's a war zone. That's precaution. But I think in this case, because of heightened tension and situation being very, very tense, the movement of the Prime Minister was not announced to the civilian administration. It was kept at need-to-know basis.
Right. Now, that actually brings me to my next question, if you could just elaborate on that a bit. We know that the Prime Minister is interacting with soldiers on the border, and in the past too, he has visited soldiers at key moments. Now, many are viewing this as an act of boosting the morale of the army as well as the nation at large. So what are your thoughts on this?
My understanding is that sometimes picture speaks 1,000 words. Prime Minister, his cabinet colleagues have refrained, barring those who have been authorized to speak, on the issue of line of actual control. If you have seen the handouts which have come from Ministry of External Affairs, those have also been very, very measured. Even the movement of military and other things, the Defence Ministry has not gone out, because they understand that if too much of foreign policy and defence matter is consumed for domestic political propaganda, it curtails the elbow room of military or diplomats or the civil heads to actually exercise the issues of strategic autonomy, because then you're bound by public opinion. So I think in this context, if you look, there's certain things which are very telling. One, social distancing is being followed. Second, he's being accompanied by Chief of Defence Staff and the General. Third, he's looking at the briefings. There are pictures and there are visuals. In pictures, one can see that he's listening to the brief which has been prepared for him. Then there is far more intimate interaction between a commander and him. in which he is nodding. So it's about, touching the imagination of the people at large, that the Prime Minister is seized of the moment. He understands what is the requirement of army out there, and he has gone there himself. Rajnath Singh was supposed to go there, but his trip was cancelled, and the Prime Minister himself went. So this is also not a departure. It is part and parcel of Indian political tradition. Indira Gandhi used to do it pretty frequently.
Right. That brings me to my final question. Now, recent events suggest that there is no hope as of now for an early resolution to the tensions at the border. And India has already banned Chinese apps as a big blow to Chinese firms. And now a high-profile visit from the Indian Prime Minister, who can be seen interacting with the top brass at the border. So what lies ahead for the India-China relations now?
I think it's lack of confidence which marks the relationship between China and India now. It's a breach from the last 45 years of understanding, where we met each other in New Delhi and Beijing. There was a time in 1980s where we exchanged maps in central sector. That is why central sector is pretty much okay. But the real issue is that the map exchange has not happened either in the Ladakh sector or in the Arunachal Pradesh sector, which China says is part of the southern Tibet. And that's where the problem is, because China has used the issue of boundary to push its strategic agenda in South Asia. So rather than resolve it, China has weaponized this issue of boundary.
Right. All right, Karthike, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and for all your inputs on this story.